गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। As our Dr. Raj said, after a long journey of going through Bhagavad Gita, how many, 6-7 years I think, we completed it last time, and it was then we did a essence of Bhagavad Gita with Swami Anubhavanandaji that last time, and this time we are going to indulge, if we may use that word, in the text again by Adi Shankaracharya called Bhaja Govindam. And see, the whole, we live life on a human being lives life in four ways, following four ways: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That is, doing his duty, dharma. Kama is satisfying his desires, artha, collecting wealth, and fourth, attaining liberation. This is the journey of human being. And when we do a particular sadhana, where our whole life must be that, are we making the duty the means so that we can reach moksha, the liberation, the destination? Are we making desire the means so that we can make moksha, the liberation, the destination? Are we making wealth the means so that we can reach the moksha, the destination? Or are we making the Lord the means and the duty, the destination, the desires, the destination, the wealth, the destination? This is an individual thing. When you go to a church or you are in your silent moments, when you pray to the Lord, what do you pray to the Lord for? Is it for achieving something in life that you don't have? Or are you praying to the Lord or the Spirit within for the sake of being one with that Spirit, for His own sake? And life, as we keep living on a daily basis, again and again, the life gives us opportunities, life gives us instances, creates situation. We go through experiences, come across various events by which our mind is turned towards that destination. Oh man, don't mistake the means to be the destination. Recognize the means as the means and destination as destination. We go to the temple, we make the Lord the means and the world the destination. The truth is, we must make the world the means to reach the Lord the destination, isn't it? Lord, love, Spirit, consciousness, whatever word you may use for it. And in this way, with this introduction, this our Bhaja Govindam, it bangs away at our intellect again and again. Therefore it's called Moha Mudgara. Mudgara means, another name for Bhaja Govindam is Moha Mudgara. Mudgara means the mace, Gada. Gada jane? Like Hanumanji is holding that Gada. So the mace. Why is that mace? To bang away the delusion. It doesn't go otherwise. Until and unless we don't keep hitting at it. Until unless we have created a habit of living under the purview of delusion, until unless we don't change the way of our thinking, a new way of thinking by way of which the delusions can be eradicated from our system. But for that, you have to keep banging away. A person is a single person. Now he gets married. Now he has to keep remembering himself, hey, I'm not a bachelor, I'm a married fellow. I've got different responsibilities. You can't. You have to life will keep presenting moments where you will feel, I am a bachelor, but suddenly remember, oh, I can't stay outside for too long. I've got someone waiting at home. Huh? I can't complain. Why? Because she has done her best or he has done his best. So he has to keep changing his attitude towards life because life is changing continuously. But life, your attitudes are only as good as the vision that you have about life. What is your vision of life? Is it only about an opportunity? Is it only about complaining? Is it about taking sannyas? Is it about only indulging in grandchildren? Is it only about wealth? Is it only about satisfying your desires? Or is it about wherever your mind is stuck? Depending upon that, your attitudes will make everything into the means to satisfy and approach that particular mindset that you have. So here, the Adi Shankaracharya, the story begins that Adi Shankaracharya, he's a great saint in the 8th century AD, and that time, like any religion, let it be Buddhism, let it be Hinduism, let it be Christianity, let it be Islam, every religion, because it is a part of this world, everything has a beginning, it grows to its peak and then it becomes decadent. It goes down. And similar was the religion before Adi Shankaracharya came, and that was the time, 2,500 years of Buddhism. And it had become so strong and so powerful that when strength, power, supremacy comes, automatically the ideas get corrupted with time, and always it is seen in not only in the rest of the world, but more so in our India, that some saint or a sage comes and revives the whole original thought so that those deluded people can come back to their glory. And such a person, was one of the persons who wrote this is Adi Shankaracharya. It is said that he was the incarnation of Lord Shiva himself, and at that time the Vedic religion was absolutely at its, we can use the word, in the pits. It had to be revived. And what is Buddhist religion? Buddhist religion is that which does not accept the Vedas. So it was born out of the Vedic culture as a reaction to the Vedic culture. Why? Because the Vedic culture had become too strong. And when it became too strong, the propagators of the Vedic culture became very arrogant and they started demanding, controlling, manipulating, and therefore the Buddhist thought emanated from that culture. So most of the exercises that are there in the Buddhist philosophy are there already in our Patanjali philosophy in the various texts. Maybe they have gone a bit more deeper to and unfold it. And then when the Shankaracharya came, in 32 years of his life, 16 and 16, by the age he was 16, he had realized the truth, he had come to know who he is, he had mastered all the scriptures, and he had gone to Badrinath, and there, by the banks of the Saraswati river, he was sitting there, meditating, contemplating, and had come to a conclusion that there is nothing else to be known. I know who I am, and story is over. And also, his mother had told him that by 16, the sage, because of that great master, because of whom I got you as a blessing, that astrologer or that person told me that you will live only for 16 years. So he knew that. And while he was about to go into samadhi, we won't say give up his life, but was taking samadhi, Maharishi Vedvyas, another incarnation of the Lord, living in a cave nearby, who wrote all the Puranas, who wrote, because of whom Bhagavad Gita that we have got, is because of him. It's not because of the Lord. Lord said and went away. But it is the Maharishi Vedvyas who remembered that Mahabharata had happened and put it on paper. And therefore we got it. He saw this young fellow, 16-year-old, ready to take samadhi. He went to him and he asked a few questions. There was a dialogue, and this young boy, he said, "You cannot be an ordinary person to be asking such a question. Please reveal to me who you are really." And as a result of that, he said, I'm Vedvyas. And then he blessed him. Because that young boy, even though he had come to know who he is, he was not arrogant of that knowledge. When arrogance comes as a result of realization, understand, the person is not cooked enough. More cooking is required. The more the wisdom, the more the humility, the more the humbleness. The more common, you become commoner than the commonest. And this Adi Shankaracharya was blessed by Maharishi Vedvyas with another 16 years. And he said, now that you know yourself, son, you go. And the world needs a person to bring back the knowledge of the Vedas. And he came down and he started teaching. He wrote commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, on the Upanishads, etc., etc. And one day, as it is towards the end of his after many years, he had debated with many people. In those wars were not fought to convert other people. They were only debates. You debate with some great master of a certain philosophy, and in the king's court, if you defeat him, the king has to convert into your belief system. And if you get defeated again by someone else, then the king has to change again. And so there were no wars on account of religion in India. Never a war has been fought. And this Adi Shankaracharya, one day with his 14 disciples, was walking through the by-lanes. Then we'll go to Varanasi, you will see how narrow the lanes are. Yeah, the motorcycle, the cow, the bull, the vegetable seller, the dogs, the cats, and all the vendors. Everyone together in that narrow thing. And how it all manages, God only. Therefore, God is present. And he was passing by, and he suddenly saw one old 60+ senior citizen sitting outside his house on a platform and chanting Ramaha Ramau Ramaha Ramam Ramau Raman Ramena Ramabhyam Ramaihi, and this way he was chanting the Sanskrit grammar shlokas or the grammar. And Adi Shankaracharya, the moment he saw 60+ person still wanting to know grammar, mechanically chanting all that, he felt in his heart that I must open this fellow's eyes, that he's wasting his time chanting the rules of the grammar. Instead, he should chant the name of the Lord. He should contemplate on the name of the Lord. Because how many years does he have left? And therefore, at that very moment, from his mouth, this beautiful verse came out. I will chant that afterwards. And when this verse, Bhaj Govindam, this verse came out, for 12 verses he went on. And therefore, another name for this Bhaj Govindam is Dwadashi Manjarika Stotram. So one is Bhaj Govindam, second is Mohamudgara, the mace which can destroy the delusion. And the third is Dwadashi Manjarika Stotram, means the song of the 12 verses. And with the 13th verse, he concludes the total thought. And by listening to these 12 verses, these 14 disciples who understood the mind of the great Shankaracharya, that he is telling this unwitting fellow to stop chanting and take the name of the Lord, they also laughed as if, look at that old man, out of sarcasm. And when Adi Shankaracharya heard that, he not only chanted these 12 verses to wake up that old man who's sitting there, and through that old man all of us, but also to wake up his 14 disciples who had behaved in a wrong manner, laughing at the foolishness of that old man. See? And therefore, you can read the first word, repeat after me. It says, Bhaja Govind, repeat after me. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Samprapte sannihite kale, Samprapte sannihite kale, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrum karane, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrum karane. Together, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte sannihite kale, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrum karane. And in this way, this Adi Shankaracharya started reminding this lost soul, these lost disciples who thought they know everything but had the audacity to laugh at an old man, at his foolishness. So a teacher is he who is able to, in one stone, is able to hit two birds. So with one verse, with few verses, he is able to direct the attention to the old man as well as to his disciples. Now, how many types of disciples are there? Some disciples, there are 4 types of disciples. The best disciple is he who the teacher does not have to say anything. Before the teacher opens his mouth, the disciple comes to know what is in the mind of the teacher and carries out, not when it is required, even before. So teacher doesn't have to say, please bring me a glass of water. He already knows that this will be required after some time, so I must keep it ready. I must keep the room ready, or I must keep my whatever is required by the teacher. Yeah? That is the best disciple who preempts what is going on, because he is so connected with his teacher that the needs of the teacher becomes his service. Then the second type of disciple is the one to whom the teacher has to say something. He says, do this, and then he will go and do it. And then again he will say, Acha, now do this, he will go and do this. And every now and then, this type of disciple needs, you did very well, man, you are great, you are one of my best disciples. You may not say that, but he needs continuous praise. Because this fellow is not motivated from inside. He needs motivation from outside. He is dependent. The first one is inspired from within. He does not need any prompting. He knows that whatever I do is, it will purify me, it will help me. It's not only because of that, it's more about love, it's more about connection. And the third type of disciple is to whom something is told and yet he doesn't do. You tell him, please go and get me one pencil. He goes to get the pencil, and in the shopping area he meets someone and he starts chatting, and the teacher is waiting. Arey, where's the pencil, man? Or where's the tea? I'm waiting. Where is it gone? So this is the third type of disciple. These students, these 14 disciples of Adi Shankaracharya who are behind him, they are not the third type. They are neither the second type. They are the first type. And therefore, the first 12 verses, when Adi Shankaracharya tells, and in the 13th he concludes everything, from the 14th onwards, all the 14 disciples, they come out with an spontaneous add-on to this entire Bhaj Govindam. So, after 13, 14 are given by each one of the disciples. 14 verses are given by each one of the disciples. And then in the last 3, again Adi Shankaracharya concludes the whole. So these are the total of 31 or 31 verses. As it was written in 8th century, long time ago, how many? 1200 years ago. So it's with time, what we have here, what we have given you here is the most common format that is available. There are certain places, some printing publications where some extra verses have been added, some places some verses have been minused, and some wordings are different, but it does not matter because our goal is clear. What is this Bhaj Govindam? Are we studying it for intellectual appreciation, or are we studying it or going through it in the next 3 days and probably the next trip also, so that our attention shifts towards the divine? That is the purpose. So we are not making the Lord the means and the book, okay, one more book I have finished. No. Frankly, even one word is enough to transport us to the sanctum sanctorum, to the abode of the Lord. And sometimes all the plethora of scriptures that you have in all religions, you can study everything and yet not know what the truth is. Such people are called philosophers, who know everything about the truth but have not experienced the truth. And those who have known or not known the various scriptures but they know the truth, they are called saints and sages. This is the difference. So which category you fall? Oh, I am not a saint or a sage. Suit yourself. Are you a philosopher? Neither I am that. Then what are you? You are a seeker. We are seekers. And seekers are such. I gave you the 3 categories. You come into that. We all come in that category. So are you if we are the lowest type, raise yourself to the second and then to the ultimate, the Uttam Adhikari. So in Sanskrit the words are Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari and Adham Adhikari. The lowest, the medium and the best. So we must raise ourselves to that level. Understand again, this Bhaj Govindam is not an intellectual process. It is the verse, because now understand the goal is the Lord. Goal is the divine. So for that, we are looking at this world and complaining. Most of us are complaining. Pain here, pain everywhere. Economy is going down, share market is, I lost money in the share market, property prices have gone down, oh my God, I have taken a loan, and how long will this interest will remain low? Continuously complaining. So are we going to complain about the world and ask for solutions for this worldly living by making Lord the means? Or are we going to make this world the means and make the Lord the goal? For that, our vision must change. How does vision change? Through understanding. Something must shift inside. You are saying yes, you are also saying yes. What happened when you got married? You are still the same, she is still the same, but all you did was put one Mangal Sutra around her neck. And after putting the Mangal Sutra, suddenly she became Mrs. Unni. And she starts thinking also like that. He also stops being a bachelor. He also starts thinking like, I am a husband now. You know who's a husband? The one whose hasi is band, means he has stopped laughing. See, he's not laughing. Huh? Hasi means laugh, band means stop. The one who stops laughing is husband.
Which look he is that?
Huh?
Which look he is that?
With?
Look. If he hears that, he'll start laughing.
Okay. Oh, look, if he hears that, yes.
He feels really.
So, what changed? You are still the same person, she is still the same person, but your vision of looking at yourself has changed. Person is the same. So something shifted inside. Similarly, are we making every experience, every contact, every event in the world into a changing our vision, or are we still stuck in our default modes of operating in the world? What we have done for so many years, which has not worked till today, we are still continuing to think, behave, act in the same manner and continue to complain about the same things for last 15, 20, 30 years, depending upon your age. Or have we taken some books, gone to some teachers, imbibed that knowledge, and that has brought about our shift in the vision? Because when the vision shifts from inside based on the understanding, then our perception of the world will change. When the perception of the world changes, your performance in the world changes. So mere intellectual appreciation does not bring about a change in performance in the world. See? So what is the change in vision? The change in vision is that this woman, this man is not just a mere woman or a man. He is my husband or he is a wife. Change in vision. It has gone deep inside. You know that it was just a ritual. You know you are an independent person, but something deep inside that I am living in this society, in this culture where this is happened. And that inner acceptance has brought about your change in vision. Now, so many men come in your life. You don't call everyone my hubby. You call only one of them my hubby. Why? Your vision has changed about that person, and therefore you accept him as your own. Isn't it? And then performance, whenever you interact with that person, it will be totally different as compared to when you interact with other men. Isn't it? So, what was the perception? He is my own, or she is my own. Every husband and wife go through that. So, what is God vision? The purpose, liberation, reality, knowing the reality, being with the Spirit. What is it? It is that everything in this universe, every stone, every plant, every animal, every human being is I. That is the transformation that we have to go through. And for that, understanding is required. But for the understanding, purification is required. We called, I said when the email that I sent, redefining the notions of life. The notions, the values which we are living in our present life, have they brought us peace and happiness and tranquility, which we are continuously seeking? Or after so many years of meditation and satsang and taking the Lord's name, we are still far away from that peace and tranquility. Each one has to assess in their hearts. It is not a generalized forum where, no, I will realize when everyone realizes. It doesn't happen. Yudhishthir also tried. He says, I will not come to heaven till everyone from my group also doesn't come to the heaven. But as he was walking towards the Badrinath, first Draupadi passed away, then one by one all the brothers passed away. Only one dog was left. And when the chariot from the heaven came to take him, he says, I will not come unless this dog is also allowed. And at that time, the Lord of Death, he appeared. He was the Dharma. He was following this whole gang as a dog. He has not eaten, he has not drunk. Whatever they are going, he's just at the back. Slowly everyone is popping away and he is alone left. Then Yudhishthir realized, this must not be a very ordinary dog. All my brothers have died. All my, my wife has died. My children have died. But this dog has come all the way. He must be extraordinary. Please reveal yourself, sir, who you are. He's not saying, wait, go, show me who you are. No, he's respecting it because he has made the journey to the gates of heaven. And that dog immediately gets transformed into the god of death. And he says, yes, I was testing that if you had not said what you just said, that I will not come till the dog is not taken to the allowed entry into the heaven, I would not have allowed you to go into the heaven. This was your final test. Band kar do. So in this way, the journey is not a collective journey. Journey is not a soulmate journey, hand in hand, and we'll both go to the Lord. It will not happen. It is an individual journey, and you have to find out what works for you. You have to change the perception. The husband cannot change the perception for the wife, or the vision for the wife, or make the understanding to happen. She has to contemplate. Each individual person has to contemplate in their own heart and mind and bring about that change. Our role is, our thinking is that we have studied the scriptures and some bunkas they are telling, so many big high fundas they give and make us confused. But what should be our approach? Our approach should be, if this is what the scriptures are telling us, then I must orientate my life in such a manner so that I can come to see the principles given in Bhagavad Gita or the other scriptures happening, expressing as truth in my own life. It should be my own experience. But instead, we try to disprove. Yeah, scriptures were fantastic, they are good in the books, the principles are good in the books, but I will lead my life the way I am leading. Whereas the other way it should be. So in this way, don't approach this Bhaja Govindam in this manner. This, just like there are many scriptures, many variety categories of scriptures, and those scriptures which tell you step by step about who you are. We are not talking about Upanishads. These are called Prakaran Granthas. Tattva Bodh, for example, tells you what the essence is, what the mind is, what the intellect is, what the body is, how the space, air, fire, water, earth, how they came about and combined together to create this creation. That is the one. Another one is Atma Bodh. It is about Atma, the knowledge of Atma. How do you get to that? What are the various processes? So step by step it is explaining. Then there is one called Viveka Chudamani. It is called the crest jewel of discrimination. How to discriminate. How to discriminate, just like I gave you one small example, the three kinds of disciple. This is how you discriminate, and you come to realize that, hey, where do I stand? Am I in these three or outside these three? See? What is God? What is spirit? What is and various many other technical terms are given which are used in the Vedas, which are explained in this. And this Bhaja Govindam also is one of those Prakaran Granthas which is not telling you any technical terms, but it is directly banging against your intellect to wake you up. To wake you up. And only a great teacher with great compassion can come out with with such words to wake us up. So therefore, here he says that Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrum Karane. It says, seek Govinda, seek Govinda, seek Govinda, O fool. When the appointed time comes, that is when the death comes, grammar rules surely will not save you. So who will save you when the death comes? The Lord. People think, people feel, people have the belief that at the time of death, it is said, at the time of death, if you remember the name of the Lord, you will go to his abode. So many stories in lot of scriptures are indicating that. But usually it is under, well, we have not died. So at the time of death, your entire life that you have lived passes in front of your eyes. At that time, what is the last thought as the replay of your life is going on in front of your eyes? Which scene will remain stuck? Do you know? Can you say with guarantee right now what is the scene, what is the thought, what is the desire, what is the name, what is that idea, what is that conviction which will remain as the last thought in your mind before you conk off? It will be that one which you will have entertained in your mind intensely with great emotion for a long period of time throughout your life, knowingly or unknowingly. Knowingly or unknowingly. So it is not by that when I retire and I'll take the name, at the time of death I'll take the name and it will happen. It has not happened till now. Very rare few are there. And those rare few are those who have lived their life incessantly chanting the name of the Lord. Not just like that. See? So why it is so told, why couldn't he say just Bhaja Govindam? Why 3 times Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate? Who is this Govinda? Why serve Govinda, seek Govinda, seek Govinda? Bhaja also means serve. Bhaja means also to serve. So serve Govinda, serve Govinda, serve Govinda. Oh stupid fool. So how do you serve the Lord? We usually serve the Lord or think or as Baba says, service to the Lord is the ultimate, isn't it? That's the first one. So first Govinda is that we must serve the world thinking that it is the expression of the Lord. But we want to go to the temple, look at a stone statue, look at a cross, look at a statue of Buddha sitting in deep meditation, touch that statue, feel very divined and come back. But we don't want to even entertain that divinity expressing through a living person. But we feel that in the statue it is there, but in human being it is not there. And hatred, jealousy, greed, bad mouthing, abusing, disrespecting, all this goes on. Why? Because our attention is only on the statue. Why? It does not answer back. Why it is not on the human beings? Because human beings answer back. Even to this extent that where human beings have taken animals to be more godly than human beings. So worst people are only who take the stones, a bit better animals, and the best is those who take human beings as God. See? So when we say Sarva Govinda, Serve Govinda means serve the whole creation, bring about that disposition within yourself that you are able to see the whole world as an expression of that divine. That the creation cannot be outside the divinity, which means it will be in opposition to divinity then, isn't it? It has to be within divinity. So do you mean, sir, that good and evil both are pervaded by the divinity? Yes, both are. Divinity does not. How can you say that? Is the sun against day and night, good and bad? Day is good, light, because in the daylight there is light, there is life, there is activity, there is ambition, there is success, failure, etc. You are awake, so that is good. In night, oh, I am lazy, I am sleepy, I am forgetful, I am... So, day is opposed to night, night is opposed to day, but is the sun, because of whom day and night is there, is he opposed to both of them? Can day and night appear without the sun? No. But from you take the position of the sun, if you say thank you, Om Bhurbhuva Swahat Saviturvarenyam, thank you for being the sun, he says, for giving the day to us. He says, what is day? I don't know. What is night? I don't know. Because, oh, thank you for giving us heat and light. He says, what is heat? I don't know. What is light? I don't know. Because that which is you already, how can you know it as separate to yourself? This beautiful mistake only human being can make. He is consciousness and he is seeking consciousness. See? You are consciousness, you are living organism and you are searching for life. You are searching for that life principle. Arey, you are that. This mistake only human being can make. And which human being? Intelligent one. So when you take the sun's standpoint, there is neither heat nor light nor, if you go outside the earth's surface, there is no sunlight. It is called dark light according to science. Only when some material comes, then the dark light reflects against the material, some object, and you are able to see then you call that as, I am seeing that object in the sunlight. But otherwise there is nothing in the space. Similarly, our goal is this principle. Our goal is this Lord who is expressing as this whole creation. And in this creation, in the creation there is good and bad, good and evil, God and demonic. But both are supported, both type of people, both type of mentalities, both type of attitudes are supported by that one God. He is not influenced by those two, but in his presence, those two are expressing. So recognize in this manner. Then second one, we'll go more into it a little bit later. Then second is Bhaja Govindam again. Then first is at the body level, we serve the Lord. How? By accepting all the bodies that are expressing in this creation as an expression of that divine. See, in our scriptures, the entire creation is told to be made up of 5 things. Asti, Bhati, Priya, Nama, Roop. Asti means isness, existence. Bhati means consciousness, nature of light. Third is Priya, that which is bliss of joy, gives joy. And Nama, Roop. Out of these 5, these 3, Asti, Bhati, Priya, existence, consciousness, bliss, are the characteristics of the reality. Name and form are the characteristics of non-reality. They appear to be. Actually, they are not. They only appear to be. See? So when we are interacting in this world, looking at names and forms, but our attention is on the reality because of whom these names and forms are expressing, then the whole vision has changed. So serve the Lord in this manner. And how do you serve? You serve not to impose your ideas on people. You serve so that you purify. This you must be experiencing in your organization or when you go to Puttaparthi. Some people are there for service. Some people are there to exercise their will. Some people are there to, I am the great devotee of the Sai Baba. They want to take positions in the committee, in the various portfolios that are available there. But all of them have come as a sevak. What does a sevak mean? Sevak means a servant. Who is a servant? What is the definition of a servant as compared to a master? Say?
He saves.
He serves. Okay. He serves. Tell me something else. Servant serves, master does not serve. Okay. Second. He listens to the master, he does not dictate to the master. Third, he obeys and the master commands. Isn't it? He lives for a salary, the master pays the salary. See? And if one day he decides, hey, I have been here for so many years, the master has been living in Australia, I have been taking care of the house, and suddenly he starts thinking I am the master of the house, and the original master comes. What will happen? He will be kicked out of his job. Why? He is not serving the purpose. So if you don't want to be kicked out of this world, because you are not doing what he wants us to do. What does he want to do? What does the Lord want us to do? He wants you and everyone to come back to your pristine nature, which is not other than him. Your immortality, which is not other than him. And what are we doing? Busy collecting wealth, busy playing on the share market, busy traveling, busy doing everything else except remembering him, isn't it? So he will correct his mistake. We think we are going to live for 70, 80 years. There is no guarantee. We feel as if we are, undestroyable. We feel that we are
indestructible.
Indestructible. We feel, everyone feels that I am going to wake up tomorrow, that I am going to, and we plan according to that. We are going to move in the future, we will buy this property, we will do that, we will get married, we will have children, we will go for travel, this, that, blah, blah. So much planning goes on. Thinking 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan, 20-year plan, life plan. But have you thought all that plan is with regards to where your attention is? Your attention is on the world. Your attention is on your success. But have you realized that your true success is only when you become one with the Lord? No millionaire till today is happy. He still wants more because that is not enough for him. Still wants more. There is no end to it. Then when will it come? A wise man is he who learns from other people's mistake. I learned. I did not get married. I took sannyas. I bless others to get married, but I will not get married. Because I learned from my mistake. From my others' mistake, sorry. So we are, and point is, we are living in a default process. Life is showing us it is not like that. Any time life can go. But life gone means, if Vedic culture believes in puts forward a theory called reincarnation. So in the next womb again, 9 months in the womb, in that dirty water, then come out and again start learning to walk, learning to crawl, learning ABCD, learning 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God, before you know, already 20 years are gone. You are only learning. And if you are a doctor, 30 years gone. Only learning. See? Why not make this life which has been given to you and you know you are alive? Why not make it an opportunity to transcend everything? Why not make this life an opportunity to recognize that union, that liberation, that fulfillment is already present? All you have to do is live in that recognition, that's all. The more you recognize that the Lord is not separate from you, He is expressing through you, to that extent you will be able to recognize that Lord, that divine expressing through everything and everyone. This is service to the Lord. Service to the Lord does not mean going and cleaning the temple. That is a good beginning. This is true service, where this body, which is the temple of the Lord, I see every other body as a temple of the Lord and I serve. Not impose my ideas on other people. Serving means you are in so much in tune, just like you are in tune with your body without your thinking. If something happens and there is scratching, you don't think, oh, now I have to move my finger outwards and then I have to move them in this manner so that they can go and scratch and bring that irritation to a normal. You don't have to think, it's an automatic response. So service to the mankind means an automatic response to the pains of others, automatic response to participate in the joys of others, an automatic response to come down to the level of the ignorant people and slowly bring them out and show them the higher vision. It's an automatic response where you are not trying, it's happening. It's happening. There's initially it seems as if it is an effort, but the more you serve, more the individuality melts. To that extent, divinity is spreading itself. It becomes a natural way of your life, where you are contributing towards the society by being one citizen of that society who is living in the remembrance of the self or in realization of that self. The moment flower grows, blooms, immediately the bees flock to it to get the nectar. That flower does not bloom because from someone outside pulled the petals open. It's from inside out that the flower blooms. And if the flower is opened earlier, it has got no fragrance. Only when it is fully ready, then it gives fragrance. Only when the fruit is fully ripe, it tastes sweet. See? So you make yourself ripe from inside, Bhaja Govindam. And that way, first way, as long as you feel you are the body, as long as the body identification is there, we must serve. Who? So our scriptures, this famous Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. First you consider mom as God, then you consider dad as God, then you consider your teacher as God, and then you consider Atithi, every person who comes in your life as God. This is the expansion of vision. Why? The first person with whom the child is very close to and feels without whom he feels insecure is the mother. So wherever mother goes, he is behind him all the time. Then as he becomes a teenager, the father becomes the molding personality in his life. They are the closest to him. Then the parents should instill these values in the mind of the child that, hey, Guru Devo Bhava, teacher is Guru. And therefore, in our culture, whenever a teacher comes, elder comes, we touch their feet. It's not because, why should I touch the feet? Who does he think he is? It's not for that purpose. It's to show respect. It's to show that I am not arrogant. You melt your personality in front of that elderly person, in front of your father and mother, in front of your teacher, and eventually in front of every human being. There was one person in Eknath Maharaj's life. Eknath Maharaj was a great saint in Maharashtra about 400 years ago. And there was one Swami who was, his name was Dandavat Swami. And this Dandavat Swami had come, and Eknath Maharaj was married, he had his son, and he used to sing the name of the Lord and everything. And suddenly some people came to his house. Have you met this fellow? Have you met this fellow? What is he doing? Oh, he is prostrating at every person who comes in front of him, he prostrates. Therefore his name is Dandavat Swami, the one prostrating Swami. And you know what happened? There was one donkey lying there, and he prostrated in front of the donkey, and we knew that the donkey was dead, and he became alive. Eknath Maharaj says, Acha, he prostrated and the dead donkey became alive. I must go and see that, not the donkey, I must see the prostrating Swami. So he went and people had already carried him on his shoulders, and they are running around the whole township. Oh, great Mahatma, great Mahatma. Eknath Maharaj is there. He is living in that community. But the entire educated class in that community was against Eknath Maharaj. This happens with all masters. They do not recognize a great master among themselves. Why? Jealousy is there. Why? How can, he is also like us, he is also married, and he is great, and I am not great. How can that be? So that competition comes. But this was not from their township, he had come from outside. Oh, great fellow, great fellow, great fellow. By the evening, that Dandavat Swami, that prostrating Swami, he somehow escaped from the clutches of all the town people and ran and came to know that Eknath Maharaj, a great saint, lives here. He ran into his house. He says, please hide me, please hide me, please hide me. He says, why? What happened? He says, I don't know. I got this feeling that I must prostrate to the whole creation, so whoever comes in front of me, I prostrate. I did not know it was a dead donkey. I prostrated, and maybe it was not dead. It woke up and it started moving. Now everyone wants that their child's disease should be healed, that someone has, always in a town, someone is dying, so they are coming, please come and do namaskar to this fellow, this will die. Then the king sent his troops that please come and help my horse and my cow. He says, this is crazy, I will go mad. I was enjoying life, looking at the whole creation as the expression of the Lord, and now suddenly this has happened. What is the way out? Eknath Maharaj didn't say anything. He says, I cannot live like this, I cannot. So eventually Eknath Maharaj says, come. If you don't want to live like this, the only way out is because you go out of this house. All the vultures are waiting to encash your ability, which they think is your ability. You have told me it is not your ability. You are only looking at the world. So, are you looking at the world or as the Lord? He says, as the Lord. He says, do you know where the Lord is? Is it in the world or is it in the self? He says it is in the self. So, how long will you keep thinking about the world and stop thinking about the Lord? He says, then what should I do? He says, come. Put him into samadhi, and he left his body. Next day, all the villagers came. They said, where is that Dandavat Swami? He said, he came. Then where is he? He has taken samadhi in that old temple outside the village. You killed him. No, you killed him. Because you are jealous of him, that he was greater than you. Can a master be jealous of another person? It is impossible. Yet, those, and this you find in the Catholic Church, nowadays you see all the news that is coming out, similar cases have happened in every religion, where the religion has been used to satisfy their urges. Because religion is very powerful. God is very powerful. So first is Bhaja Govindam, serve the Lord. And this is where you serve the Lord. See the body as a temple. And who is the one? We don't go to the temple to look at the building and the architecture. Why do we go? After looking at architecture, how beautiful, what carving, beautiful. How they must have put all these stones together without any concrete. Oh my God, unbelievable. But in the end, after seeing the whole temple, your attention has not come to see the architecture of the temple. Your eyes have come to see the Lord who is abiding in the sanctum sanctorium, isn't it? And that's where you go. That's where you offer your, prostrations. You don't offer prostrations to the whole temple. You offer prostrations to the Lord in the temple. So who is that Lord who is functioning through this temple? Because of whom this temple called body is called Swami Paramananda or Gopika or Ramesh. Each name is given. A dead body is not called. Ramesh has left the body. Swami has left the body. Then it is not, it's only dead body. Then pyramids are built. They are not temples. They are mausoleums. Isn't it? In temple, there is a living principle present. Therefore, prana pratishtha of the stone. So are we able to recognize so our interaction with the world should be such that we are able to recognize that Lord functioning through every human, every animal, every plant, and then automatically your interaction with it will change. It will not be of disrespect, it will be of love. Then you will not just by going, chalo, because the tree is there, break this twig and start using. No. Then you will not just pluck a flower. Why? Bahut acha hai. Throw. No. Then even if you want to pluck a flower, you will pluck only to offer it at the feet of the Lord. If you pluck a flower in our culture, when you pluck a flower, you take the name of the Lord and then pluck the flower. In that taking the name, you are excusing yourself because it's an act, it's a wrong act. See? Then the second type of second Bhaja Govindam is written. First it was at the body level. The next way we interact with the world is through our speech. First is the body. Second is the speech. What is the way we interact with the speech with the world? Hey, come here. Or, oh mother, may I have your grace? Huh? Are we coming across, is there elegance, is there love in our speech, or is our speech a matter of fact speech? Is it a mechanical speech? Because I heard some rappers use certain language, I use that language because that's the in thing right now. Is it? Or is the speech that is coming out of my mouth is the expression of that divine who is embodied within this body temple. And it is his inspiration which is bringing this speech out. See, one great Mahatma was there. His name was Belsare Maharaj in Bombay. Till now, few years ago he passed away. 99 he passed away. Our teacher told us that he is a great person and his body also, anywhere you touch his body, he was a devotee of Lord Ram. And the name Ram will come out of his body. So myself and two other, somehow we found we ran away from the ashram for 2 hours, took a train, went to his house. He was 96 years old that time, and went into his house. And he said, what happened, my child? Why have you come? No, our teacher told us about you and we want to have your darshan. We want to have your vision of you. He says, Acha, come, first eat. He gave us coffee, he gave us something to eat, his wife. Very, very loving grandmother. Oh, still the vision is in front of my eyes. And he says, say something, tell me what can I do for you. No, you tell us, please give us advice on how we as a brahmachari should conduct ourselves. He said something. And when we are ready to leave, everyone touched his feet. And I was lying flat on the ground, touching his feet. And I put my ear on on his feet. Ram, Ram, Ram. From the feet. From the feet. This is the difference. There was another master, also in Bombay only. And the doctor came, and he was not well. The doctor came with a stethoscope, and he had to hear a lot of zing-bang gang around that master. Jokes were going on, laughter was going on, talking was going on. He says, everyone quiet. So he put the stethoscope. He heard the name of the Lord Ram. I told you to be quiet, no? And again he touched Ram. Then something wrong. Okay, I'll check the back. He went back, there also Ram. So the master to whom he was checking, he said, don't worry man, you touch anywhere. So he went to the toe, Ram. In the stethoscope, he is listening, Ram coming in. He is touching the knee, Ram is coming. He is touching the shoulder, Ram is coming. He is touching the palm, Ram is coming. How does this happen? See, a business person who's got his money on the horse races or on the share market, what is he continuously thinking of? In sleep also. He will dream also of the share market going up or down, or his horse winning. Because all his money is into that. His mind is single-pointedly thinking about that. So when we talk about the speech, a person whose every cell of the body, every breath is chanting the name of the Lord. Imagine how saturated he is with the divine name. Whether it be Ram, whether it be Krishna, whether it be Jesus, whether it be Allah, does not matter. But the solution is not in the world, it is in the name of the Lord. And this speech, that what we are talking of at this moment, by way of which we serve the world, is expressing at 4 levels. First is called the Vaikhari speech, that is the loud speech. That is the loud, what I am speaking right now is Vaikhari. With this, we communicate to other people. But when we communicate, do other people listen? Understanding also is of 2 types. Some people will understand what you have said. Some people will understand half of what you have said. Some people will understand compared to some information that is present in their mind from before. They will compare it. And some people will understand exactly the opposite of what you have said. And some people who are majority number will not understand anything at all. So 4 types of people whom you are communicating to. And that therefore, misunderstandings between two people take place. Therefore, miscommunication takes place. Why? Such individualized personality that based on that individualized personality, we are speaking something and only our viewpoint. And the other is also an individual. He is also not, he is thinking from his viewpoint. And those two viewpoints do not meet. I say that to go to Prashila's house, you have to go out of this road. You go through the narrow alleyway, then you turn left and you turn left on the roundabout again at the lights and cross the two roundabouts, then come there. And then someone says, no, that is not, I don't think that is the way. When you come out of the alleyway, you turn right and then go to the first right turn that you get, you turn right there, then the shopping center will be there, you turn right again and you will come to the roundabout. From there you turn left and catch the highway. If I have all my life only gone by my way, will I be ready to accept your way? And if you are all the time gone by your way, will you be ready to accept my way? Both are reaching the same destination, but arguing. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, war is on. Therefore wars come about. Unprepared, unsurrendered, undivine people leading religious sects which are not, and they are not able to communicate. They don't have the bigger vision. Therefore Shias fight with Sunnis. Therefore Christianity versus Islam versus Jews. Therefore Vaishnavas versus Shankaras. Therefore Hinduism versus Buddhism. Therefore Taoism versus Confucianism. This is going on everywhere in the world. Why? And yet, you come to Ammachi, you heard of Ammachi? You come to Sai Baba, people from all the parts of the world, following whatever religion they are following, all their past gets melted when they come in front of that teacher, isn't it? They forget they are white or black, they forget they are Christian or Muslim or Hindu, they forget they are from the eastern part of the globe or the western part of the globe. They forget they are educated or uneducated. They forget they are originals or aboriginals. Everyone gets the same treatment by the master, isn't it? And they melt all their differences. And their speech also expresses that attitude from inside. Why? Why that acceptance is there, and the moment they get back to their house, again with their family, with their neighbors, with this, with that, again the same story begins. So therefore, this again coming back to the speech, the Vaikhari speech is to communicate with the people in the world. And when we purify, never chant the name of the Lord mentally. Always begin with the loud chanting. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. You want to Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Chant loudly. Because the more you chant loudly, to that extent, you are weaning away your mind from the waking world. Gross speech represents the waking world. We live in three worlds: waking, dream and deep sleep world, isn't it? Every day. Every day we are awake, every day we are dreaming, every day we are in deep sleep where there are no thoughts. So this Vaikhari speech, the gross speech, deals with the waking world where we are awake. And in order to come to detach from the relatives, to detach from the duties, to detach from the ambitions, to detach from the failures of this waking world, some higher way, higher vision is required. And that higher vision is the Lord. And He has to be remembered loudly. See? In Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, same, first point is Yama. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So first step is Yama. Yama is live such a lifestyle that you do not disturb the world nor get disturbed by the world. See? Do not disturb the world nor get disturbed by the world. But this will not happen if you are thinking about the world. Until unless you don't think about the divine, your mind will not drop the world. Every night when you go to sleep, mind drops the world, isn't it? That's why you go to sleep. How can I drop the world while I am awake? I must have a different vision. If I got 12th exam or I am sitting for some exam, I'll forget the TV shows, I'll forget the lectures, I'll forget the traveling, I'll forget all the duties in the house. Because it's, a question of, I don't want to sit for this exam again in my life. Once is enough. I can't bring myself to do all the studies that I have done for year 12 exam again next year if I fail. No, let me put everything that I have. So I become focused, isn't it? That type of focus with love, with dedication, with sincerity is required when we are chanting the name of the Lord. And the more deeply we chant, to that extent our mind will start enjoying taking the name of the Lord. Because speech is there. Right now, what is the speech? Me versus you. It's about comparison, it's about competition, it's about gossip, about how that person is not good enough, how the boss is not good, how the husband is not good, how the wife is not good. No, but everything is okay, but still I think it could be, something more. So we have got words for everything in this world. Politicians, weather, partners, children, never satisfied, always scolding. Little bit in between, you are my darling baby, but have you done your homework? Mummy, just now I was feeling nice, suddenly why you have to say, have you done your homework? Spoiled the whole mood. Now I can't study. You can't study. You are always barking at the world. So how do you change this attitude towards the world? It is, you cannot change. He has to change. So you remember Him and you chant loudly. Because the divine name, you are replacing all the words that you are taking in your gross speech and you are replacing it by Om or Allah or Jesus or Krishna or Ram. See? And these names are not just mere names. They are powerful names. They represent an ideal. They represent a goal which is larger than your intellect can imagine. And the moment you connect, why do you feel good when you think about your father or your grandfather? When I think of my grandfather, my mom's father, I don't know my father's father. Why do I feel good about my mother's father? He was my first teacher. He was a yogi. And I am proud to say that he was my first teacher. He initiated me into the Kundalini sadhana. And many times I have said that in the lectures also. I have been initiated by more than a dozen teachers. Some I have no one. Everyone has called me and said, I want to come get initiated. I went. How does it matter? And I remember them. I feel great. So many people wanted to initiate me. See? And the moment I think about my grandfather, suddenly with this grandfather, I feel, oh, what a great family I belong to. My grandfather was so great. My mother is so great. My father is so great. And I must live up to that greatness. I must also prepare myself slowly, surely, so that, the way they are looked upon by the society, by the family members, and the community at large, I must also do something so that I'm worthy to be called the grandson of my grandfather, isn't it? Then you feel good. Immediately, a great inspiration comes from inside. That I'm not belonging to a family of thieves. I'm belonging to a great lineage. Similarly, when we get initiated, I was initiated as Swami Paramananda Saraswati. I belong to the Shankaracharya lineage. Oh man, what a great person. The personality itself enthralls you. It inspires, just the name inspires you. And you want to do more so that you live true to the lineage. And what is the truth of that lineage? That every person in that journey who is taking the name of Saraswati knows the truth and expounds on the truth, shares it with others, living a selfless life. So you also try to do that, isn't it? So who is Adi Shankaracharya? An ideal to be achieved in life. Who is my grandfather? An ideal to be achieved in life. Who could sit for 3 hours in meditation without breathing. Ooh. So that's the ideal, with all the qualities that he had. Who is Ram? Who is Jesus? They are not just forms in front of us. They are representing an ideal. And Jesus is an historical fact. Ram is a historical fact. Krishna is a historical fact. All these were present in this life. Buddha is an historical fact. So that energy, the moment I say Gopika, in this room no one will say anything. But that Gopika will know that she is being called. So when I say Buddha, whether present in physical form or not, I am already tapping into that consciousness called Buddha. When I say Ram, I am tapping into the consciousness called Ram. When I say Jesus, I am tapping into that infinite consciousness called Jesus. My hair are standing on, just thinking about it. And who are these? They are those people who are born in this world, and while living in this world, they perfected themselves. They realized the truth. And the moment you take their name, you are tapping into that. So instead of speaking so many words, when I take the name of Govinda, Krishna or Jesus, I am tapping into that energy. And that energy is, who is Govinda? He is Krishna. Who is Rama? He is the Lord. Who is he? The perfected one. So I am tapping into that perfected energy, that perfect consciousness. And as I tap into that, the more sincere, dedicated chanting is there, slowly, 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 my mind gets absorbed, intoxicated in that ideal and drops the world. You are not going to sleep. You are got intoxicated by the name of the Lord. See? And you have weaned away. So first step was in yoga, yama. Do not disturb the world, do not get disturbed by the world. Such a person is not disturbed by the world, nor gets disturbed by the world. Immediately this loud chanting becomes soft chanting. Because now loudly you don't need to say anything. See? Those people who have come to this point, they never scream on the phone. Hello! Hello! Have you heard? Have you seen people? Why? Because they feel if they say loudly, the voice will reach faster there. It's the same. Even if you speak softly, it will also reach. The phone has the same capacity. We are all guilty of it, isn't it? Sometimes it's a habit. It may not be representing anything. So, what time we started? 6:30. So almost we'll conclude. So this Vaikhari Vani, when you feel that you don't need to change the world, that you don't need to keep the world at bay, that meaning I am not afraid of the world, nor the world is afraid of me. This is equal to not disturbing the world nor getting disturbed by the world. Equal to I don't have anything to gain from the world. World is perfect. Everything at this moment is as it's supposed to be. The moment this realization comes within your heart, the loud chanting of the Lord becomes lip chanting. Only you are able to hear yourself. Some places it says becomes lip chanting, some places they say it is the heart chanting. The moment that happens, now you are tapping into the dream world. So the gross world, the waking world has been put to rest. You have weaned away from it. Now the next frontier that needs to be quietened in order to, in your journey to realization of the Lord, is the dream world. Dream world means unwanted thoughts continuously bombarding in your mind when you have gone to sleep. And you keep chanting the name of the Lord. This journey of the sound is from loud chanting to lip chanting, from lip chanting to throat chanting, from throat chanting to heart chanting, from heart chanting to navel chanting. But when it goes to navel, it becomes silent. So we'll just look at the lip chanting, then throat chanting, then heart chanting. So throat chanting. This is where the dream are are present. And as you keep chanting, you don't forget. So you're not using your mouth. I'm saying Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai. I'm not opening my mouth, but slowly. It is not because I want to go to the throat, but the feeling that has come to me is that I was chanting loudly because the world was disturbing me, so I wanted to keep those sounds of the world away from me, so I was chanting loudly. Then I came to the lip chanting, but I find that the lips movement is also a disturbance, so I stop moving the lips. But the habit of chanting has continued, so it keeps going on in my throat. And as long as you are doing it, you are purifying the dream world. You are purifying the subconscious impressions that are inherent within your subconscious mind. Initially the conscious impressions will go, then subconscious impressions will go. As if they are burnt away in the heat that is generated due to chanting. And then it moves into the heart. When it moves into the heart, it is you take care of the deep sleep state. And as you come there, a person who has come to that point, see, as I said to you before, some places say it like this, some places say the loud, the madhyama is in the heart and pashyanti is in the navel. The moment it comes there, such a person, whatever he says, happens. So if such a Mahatma says, let it rain, it will rain straight away. If a person says, you will have a child, that person has not even thought about having a child. That person will have a child. Go, you will buy a house. He will buy a house. See? So what? This power does not come. We say so many words. Oh my dear darling child, please wake up. It's time for you to go to school. Mommy, just 5 more minutes. Okay, beta, 5 more minutes. And after 5 minutes again you go, darling, it's getting late. The bus is you are going to miss the bus. Or you're going to miss your shower. Or you're going to miss your breakfast. It's so cold. It's so nice inside. I'm just getting up. Again 5 minutes pass by. So you are saying with so much love, but your words are having no impact. Why? And a saint, just by chance, touches you, looks at you, says one word to you, and it changes your life. True or not? You read in the biography of all those Vrindavan series of Baba, so many instances are there. One word, one look, one touch. And here we are touching, we are slapping, we are screaming, we are lovingly saying, but there is no impact on the child. So where are we going wrong? It's because we have not purified ourselves. So with this, the second, when we do with the gross body, we serve the world. With the second mode, which is the speech, we purify. What do we purify? Our mind expresses as mind, intellect, memory and ego. These 4 have to be purified. And these 4 get purified by incessant chant of the Lord. Zero mind is equal to God mind. But I have zero mind when I go to sleep also. But we are saying zero mind while you are conscious is equal to God mind. We are not saying while sleeping zero mind is equal to God mind. No. That is ignorant mind. Ignorance is also bliss. And God is also bliss. So by chanting the name of the Lord, Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para, as the sound from gross sound becomes subtle sound becomes subtler sound, and becomes causal, which is unmanifest sound. Eventually that sound then goes into your Kundalini. Some masters explain like this, go into the spine and then goes to the Sahasrara and merges to its source. The source is the Lord. And this is the way to purify your subtle body. Subtle body is mind, intellect, memory and ego. Ego survives on the diet of mind, intellect and memory. The zero memory, the I has got no meaning to survive. It merges back into the divine. And what happens with the last one? What is that? Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para. So I talked to you today about, remember, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So we are taken 3 times Govinda is being told. 3 times. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja. So we are taken care of the 2. The third one we have to still take care of. What is that? First we looked at how while being the body we can serve the Lord. So body is the means, God is the goal. Second, we take the speech by which we communicate with the world. We make speech the means and the God the Lord goal. And the last Govindam Bhaja is the intellect by which we think, mind and intellect, by which we think. Even if you are chanting, still remnants are there till it becomes zero. The understanding that has to come about. And what is that? That through contemplation, through samadhi practice, through meditation practice, how we must make an attempt to merge into the divine. This is the third step. Whom is being told to? Mudha Mate. Mati, the one who is intelligent. Who is intelligent? The one who is sleeping, he is not intelligent. The one who is awake but behaving as if he is sleeping, he is not intelligent. We are falling in that category. Who are the seekers? To such a seeker, it is being addressed. Oh stupid fool. Why we are being called a stupid fool? Because unknowingly, by default, because nobody has told us, nobody has directed us, we are seeking joy and happiness in the world. The true joy and happiness is in the divine. So we'll look into it further tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.